Today, the House Judiciary Committee is set to mark up Democrats' reform bill introduced last week. And joining me right now to walk us through that is a member of that committee, Georgia Congressman Doug Collins. Congressman, it's always a pleasure to see you. Thanks so much for being here.
Hey, good morning, Maria.
Tell us about the Democrat bill and that markup happening today. What are you expecting to zero in on?
Well, it's going to be interesting to see what as we go through this, like we saw last week. The problem we're having with the Democrat bill is they sort of put every bill that they could imagine into this bill to try and hit every thing that they should have been doing. We should have been talking about over the last 2 or 3 years when we actually had a police working group actually discussing these things. But now we've waited till it's a situation in which they're trying to bring it out. And instead of dealing with the issues of transparency, dealing with officer training, dealing with issues that are the things that actually make a difference in communities, we're going to also continue to be, I think, trying to enforce different things that will frankly be very difficult for police and local departments to try and implement, and at the same time not giving the flexibility. We need what the president did yesterday, and that is talk about transparency, talk about openness, being able to move and make sure that those officers who are not doing it right are not policing our streets anymore, and making sure that they have the ability to do their job. That's what we got to be a part of.
So Tim Scott will release a different plan. Tell me where this goes in terms of the timing this week.
This week we'll have the markup in Judiciary Committee here in the House, and then I'm assuming that they're going to try and mark it. It will take it to the floor either late next week or the week after. It's my understanding now that Senator Scott's bill, who I'm proud of, has been working on many things that we've been talking about. It looks like they'll now take that up in the Senate come next week. But remember, one of the things we've talked about, and I want to go back to what the president said yesterday, and it's something we worked on a few years ago. We actually had a bill, the Criminal Justice and Mental Health Act, where we actually would put in a bill that actually helps federal officers and state officers learn how to deal with situations that they come across nowadays. It's not only just those who are committing bad acts, but you're coming across those who have mental health issues, addiction issues. And that was a bill that actually began to help them notice the difference so that they can de-escalate instead of having these things escalate to situations that are just tragic for all involved.
Congressman, let me ask you about these Democrats on the House Judiciary Committee subpoenaing 2 Justice Department officials to testify that AG Barr sought certain cases for political gain. These include more lenient sentencing for Roger Stone and the fuel efficiency deal between large automakers in California. Congressman, your reaction?
Here we go again. Really, the Chairman Nadler, with everything we've got going on in this country, with everything that we could be focused on, we could be focused on the tech investigators should actually be working to make sure that tech is held accountable for the things that they're doing, which we've been trying to do for years, talking about their safe harbor protections that they hide behind every time that they go after somebody, or they try to have their own version of censorship. Why don't we look at the police working group that we've been talking about? Why don't we do the issues of immigration? Instead, we're going back to the old salt lick, so to speak, and we're going back to say we're going to attack the DOJ because we don't like the DOJ. Let's let the election in 2020 happen, and Jerry Nadler start being a chairman who actually does the job of the committee and not just something for headlines. Maria, we've been talking about this for ages. All they want to do is go rehash old things because they want to get at this president.
And yet they completely are ignoring a truly criminal investigation underway right now by John Durham, where we actually did see politicization of the White House and politicization of the intelligence agencies, the tools that we use against terrorists, with the cabal at the FBI and the CIA entrapping Trump campaign officials. Your colleagues on the left in the Judiciary Committee refuse to look at this.
Well, they have amnesia on that part. They don't want to go back and discuss that part because right now they have every power that they want to use to track down the president. They have every power but let's subpoena Comey. Let's get them back in there. Let's get McCabe. Let's get Page. Let's get Strzok. Let's get the whole investigation process going back in here and say this is what we have actually seen. Let's talk about what the Inspector General found. Let's now talk about what we know that Attorney Durham is going through. These are the things, as you said, could actually be done, but we don't want to talk about that. Why? Because it ruins their entire narrative of over 2 years that led us through a sham impeachment, that led us to investigation after investigation. They don't want people to be reminded, the media, the mainstream media don't want to be reminded that they bought it hook, line, and sinker. When Adam Schiff was telling stories that didn't factually pan out, when Jerry Nadler was railing against everything else, they bought it hook, line, and sinker, and now they don't want to go back because they have to admit they were wrong, and the Department of Justice was a corrupt band that was after a candidate for president and trying to ruin the first part of his presidency and have been ever since.
In fact, Senator Ron Johnson is working on an investigation right now into the transition The transition's supposed to be a peaceful transition from President Obama to President Trump. I asked from a senior advisor to President Obama, Valerie Jarrett, about it yesterday. All of the leaks to get her reaction to former acting DNI Rick Grinnell of blowing the Trump peaceful transition. Watch her reaction to that. Wisconsin Senator Ron Johnson is investigating that transition, the 125 leaks during the first 126 days between the Obama and Trump administrations. What is your reaction to all of these investigations going on right now into the origins of the Russia probe?
I can say to you this completely clearly, Maria, that I am so proud of how we handled that transition. And the people who were in the national security space, who were doing their jobs, we should not be politicizing and investigating their work when what they did was consistent with past practices, both parties throughout our nation's history.
Congressman, she went on to say that Congress has a lot to deal with right now, including 100,000 deaths from coronavirus, and that you should be focused on that.
If I was her, I'd want to be focused on anything but that as well. Again, listen, I think we may just put that interview in the archive and save it, because it's not going to age well. It's not aging well right now because we know the problems in the leaks that nobody were held accountable for. We have Jim Comey saying we have an opportunity here in the first few days of this administration to go in and do something we would have never dreamed of doing under other presidents, because we think that we can actually force something here to push our political agenda. We go back to the leaks, and we found out in the Oval Office when they talk about unmasking of Flynn. We go through this whole process. You know, look, if I was her, I would not want to talk about this either, because it does not shine a very flattering light on the very facts of what happened. You can try and divert it to coronavirus. You can try and divert it to the weather of the day, but you can't divert the facts that what they did was wrong, and what they did was try to disrupt this presidency, and it came back in the FBI all the way to the candidacy stage. So, look, that's just a sad excuse for not wanting to investigate the truth.
Congressman, do you think we're going to see John Durham's criminal investigation soon? When are you expecting Durham to be done?
I'm hoping for any day that we wake up and then we begin to see this actually begin to be put to bed, and actually people be held accountable for what's going on. So I'm hopeful at any time now that we're going to do it, because needs to happen. And when people want to not or play down this and they don't want to talk about it, they have to realize, again, don't think about this in terms of the upper echelons of a presidential campaign or a presidential politics. This could happen to anyone, and if there's not a restraint on what the FBI and the others were doing there, what else were they doing anywhere else? And we got to make sure that the top is always held accountable for what they're doing.
Absolutely. Congressman, it's great to see you this morning. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Maria. Take care.
We'll keep watching all of that. And to you, Congressman Doug Collins joining me there.